The Atlanta Braves offense teased us with a big game on Friday night, only to let us down and embarrass us on Saturday. Something has to change with this Atlanta Braves offense. I'm going to tell you what I think that is on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastroianni. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. Subscribe if you're new and listening on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. And if you're watching on the audio version, you can help out the show by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. On today's episode, we'll talk about the two games in the Marlins series. One, awesome. The other, dreadful. We'll talk about both of them today, and we're really going to focus on this Braves offense. We are going on almost a year now of this Braves offense just not living up to expectations, and I'm going to tell you what I think needs to happen for this offense to get going and get back on track. So a lot to cover in today's episode of Locked On Braves, which is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Well, the Atlanta Braves game got canceled on Sunday. Maybe a good thing for the Atlanta Braves as they got shut out on Saturday, and then we're set to face Sandy Alcantara on Sunday. So don't know that was going to go particularly well for this team. So you push it back till later in the year where maybe you got Acuna back, maybe the offense is going, maybe the baseballs are flying a little bit better for him at that point, and maybe you avoid Sandy Alcantara. Maybe he's traded at that point of the year. But now you do have two back-to-back off days before you then have to face the Phillies. And I just don't know that I trust this team against the Phillies, but we'll save that for another date, just kind of teasing the rest of the week. I'll have another episode out for you on Monday morning, going over everything happening at the minor league level, talking a lot about Spencer Strider and his possible return coming very soon. And then we'll have a crossover episode with Connor from Locked On Phillies previewing that series. That's what's coming the rest of the year, early part of your week. And then I'll be out on a work trip for a little while, and then we'll be back late Friday night for a mailbag podcast after Friday night's game, as I won't be back for the postcast. But Lindsay will have you covered for that Phillies series and the Friday night game on the postcast, so make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta to get that. Well, let's get into Friday night's game and start with the good. A 10-0 win over the Miami Marlins. Spencer Schwellenbach was just unbelievable in that game. It reminded me of Game 6 of the World Series in 2021. After that first inning for Max Fried, nobody was going to score on him. I've said it numerous times. I think he could have pitched another 5, 6, 7 innings, and the Astros would have never sniffed scoring a run against him. It felt that same way with Spencer Schwellenbach. He was just so dialed in. Marlins hitters had no clue up there, and it felt like he could have pitched another 5, 6, 7 innings, and they just weren't going to score against him. Ultimately, it's 8 innings, 2 hits, no walks, no earned, 10 strikeouts on 99 pitches. This is later in the year. They probably let him go complete game shutout there. And like I said, I think he gets it. What was interesting in this one is 42 four-seam fastballs that Spencer Schwellenbach threw in this one and 11 whiffs on 23 swings. It is not normal to see a pitcher get that many swings and misses on a four-seam fastball. And I think part of that was the velo was pretty good in this one. It averaged 97. He maxed at 98. Now, I don't love your average sitting close to that max like that. That is one thing that they have started to discover, and it's kind of a no-brainer thing. But pitchers that pitch close to your max velocity, you see more injuries with those guys. So I don't necessarily love seeing that for Schwellenbach, but clearly something was working with that four-seam fastball, and he and Drake Baldwin just kept throwing it, and Marlins hitters couldn't catch up to it. And I think part of that is because when you throw 6 pitches and you got to be ready for all of them. And if you are looking for something else and you're getting 96, 97, 98, it's really hard to get to, especially the way that he can locate that pitch. So I thought that was a great job by Drake Baldwin to just continue going with that four-seamer, making the other team adjust, and they never did. And look, you couldn't waste another great start from Spencer Schwellenbach. As bad as your offense has been, and obviously they were great in this one. I wish they could have rolled over some of those runs to Saturday's game. But as rough as the offense has been, and look, the starting pitching hasn't been incredible. They've kept them in ball games, but they haven't been as great as you would have hoped. You could not waste another start like this from Spencer Schwellenbach, and the offense didn't. And the offense was what we hope for. It is what we expect. And I'll talk about this later. I think it's an offense you're going to see a lot more this year. 17 hard hit balls and 12 hits. That's a great ratio. You'll take that all the time. Their 10 hardest hit balls all went for hits. So I know a lot of you get frustrated. We talk about the hard hit balls and losses and how unlucky they are. But this is why you want to hit the baseball hard. Their top 10 hardest hit balls all went for hits. Stats and data will show you the harder you hit the baseball, the more hits you're going to record and the better chance you have at getting hits. And you saw it in the game on Friday night. Every starter except Jared Kelenic, I'll talk a little bit more about him later, had a hit on Friday night. And every starter, including Kelenic, had at least one hard hit ball. Batters 1 through 6 all had 2 or more hits in the game, and they were 7 for 17 with runners in scoring position. So not only did they have a ton of chances, they got a lot of hits. That last game against the Dodgers, they were 5 for 15 with runners in scoring position. They had a lot of chances, but not a ton of hits. But this game, they go 7 for 17 in those situations, 3 walks and 9 strikeouts. I'd still like to see the strikeout total more around 6 or 7, but under 10, certainly I'll take that with this group. This is what it looks like when the offense clicks. And again, I think we'll see this offense a lot this year, but there is some inconsistency in it that, again, we'll talk about in detail today. I'm going to get really, really nerdy later in the podcast in the second segment here, so just bear with me. And we're all excited after the Friday night win, 10-0. The offense looks great. You got Cal Quantrill on the mound for the Marlins on Saturday. Even if you don't believe AJ Smith-Shawver is going to give you a great performance, you feel like the offense is going to be able to follow up what they did Friday and put up a bunch of runs on the board again. And then Saturday happened, and you get shut out 4-0 by Cal Quantrill and the Marlins. I don't mean to be taking shots at Cal Quantrill here, but he's on a good team, a 5th or 6th starter. In his first start of the season against the Mets, he allowed 6 runs on 8 hits in 4 innings. This is not a guy that should be shutting down the Braves lineup for 5 innings. And starting pitching, when a starting pitcher is on, they're capable of shutting down any lineup. I get that. But to not be able to push across 1 run against Cal Quantrill and the Marlins bullpen is unacceptable. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. And I know those are some harsh words, but those are words that we've heard the Braves use themselves about their offensive lack of production. And that's exactly what it was on Saturday. They had 7 hits and 2 walks. And again, I'm going to get into a lot of this in the second segment when I really break down the offensive struggles. 7 hits and 2 walks should be enough to push across at least 1 run. Like, maybe you don't win the game. Maybe you can't put up 5 with that mark, but 7 hits and 2 walks over 9 innings, you should be able to push across 1 run at least, especially when you have a leadoff double and a leadoff triple in the game, and you can't push across 1 run. Part of that is because they had 11 strikeouts. Like I said, I want to see that under double digits. I really want to see that more around 6, 7, or 8 strikeouts per game, but 11 strikeouts on the day. 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. There's that stat again that just continues to plague the Atlanta Braves offense. 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And they really didn't have a lot throughout the game. This isn't one of those games where they were just continually applying pressure, continually having guys on base, continually having guys and runners in scoring position. It was really at the beginning of the game and then at the end. And there was nothing in between. What made the 2023 offense so special, and we really have to, I think, quit comparing it to the 2023 offense. That's obviously an outlier, a historic season, one like we've never seen. But even going before that, 21-22, what made this offense so great is that every inning it felt like they had pressure. They had a guy on base. They had the pitcher on the ropes, and eventually they were going to get that big hit. It wasn't the case in Saturday, and it hasn't been the case a lot of last year, and hasn't been the case for much early on this season. And it's just, you felt like, again, in 21, 22, 23, they were going to apply that pressure. Yeah, they were going to fail in some situations, but eventually they were going to get that big hit. And for almost a year now, we haven't been getting that big hit consistently. On the pitching side of things, Saturday, AJ Smith-Shawver, 4 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 3 walks, 3 earned, 6 strikeouts, gave up 1 home run. It's the same thing with AJ Smith-Shawver. And I like AJ Smith-Shawver, and I think he can be a really good starting pitcher, but he's still 22 years old, and he still does not know how to command his fastball. And I say still, I didn't compare those things together very well. He's still 22 years old. We have to remember that. And at 22 years old, he hasn't quite developed the command and control over his pitches, but primarily the four-seam fastball to be a big league starter. But there just aren't any better alternatives at the moment right now. And so you're having to expect a 22-year-old to learn on the fly at the big league level, and not everybody is Spencer Schwellenbach. Once he can start to command that fastball, he's going to be a really good pitcher. But until he does that, it's going to be a guy that's continually going 4+ innings and somebody that's not consistently getting you through 5 innings. And he's going to give up some hard hit balls and some home runs because he's going to leave pitches over the middle of the plate that are going to get hammered no matter how good your stuff is. And with the Braves bullpen as thin as it is right now, you have 3 guys in your rotation, and Elder, Holmes, and AJ Smith-Shawver, that you can't count on to consistently get you through 5 innings. And your team's not going to survive. Your rotation's not going to survive like that. Your bullpen's not going to survive like that. And maybe it's only for another trip or through the rotation until Strider is ready. But still, you can't have 3 guys in your rotation that you cannot count on to give you at least 5 innings a start. You're just going to destroy your bullpen that way. Now, to Jose Suarez's credit, maybe we owe him and the Braves a little bit of an apology. He's actually been great early on, and he's done a really good job of, not only getting those garbage innings and filling those gaps, but keeping the team in the game. He kept the team. I know he gave up the home run on Saturday, but still he kept the team in the game and pitched a lot of innings for them, covered some innings and saved that bullpen. Año de los Santos in a low leverage situation, he looked phenomenal. He struck out the side. The only hit he gave up was a little swinging bunt that nobody was over at third because they had the shift on, but he's looked really good. And then I got to end it with another negative here, though. Austin Riley just looks completely lost at the plate. And it's way too early to really start looking at some of these stats, but a 5.3% walk rate and a 36.8% strikeout rate would be career highs. I don't think those numbers are going to sit there, but that's where he is right now at 32 WRC plus. He's just caught in between, and you can see it. You can see it in the at-bats. He's looking fastball, he gets the off-speed. He's looking off-speed, he gets a breaking ball. He's looking for the breaking ball, he gets a fastball down the middle. He's just caught in between right now and not able to pick it up. I believe he'll get it going. I do trust in Austin Riley, but at the moment, he is just completely lost at the plate. And honestly, it's the case for a lot of the Braves offense right now. Pitch recognition is the big thing. I dove into the stats for the Braves early on, comparing it a little bit to last year. I did find something in there that I think is a positive, but certainly something that the Braves have to change and have to change now. We'll talk about that here next. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Somebody page Jerickson Profar. Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Whether you're recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Don't take it from me. My wife took the Just Ingredient sample size that they sent me, and it's definitely working for her. Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. Again, go to justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Thank you, as always, making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Make sure you follow us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And when you're done here, make sure you go check out Locked On MLB. And they have MLB Game Night now. If you haven't been catching that, I know Lindsey Crosby's a part of that every now and then, but they're recapping all the games from every single day, all season long. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On MLB. You'll get Sully's regular podcast in there, but you also get the MLB Game Night podcast, which is recapping every game around Major League Baseball each and every day. The Braves offense. Something has to change, and it has to change now. We are now going on over almost a year. Really, the offensive struggle started at the end of April last season, carried out through all of last year, and they seem to have carried over into 2025. I get it. It's a small sample size early on. But even that, the bigger issue with this offense that I'm going to get into, it's not really even something that just started last year. It's something that's been there even when the offenses have been good. It's a one-dimensional type of offense, and when that one dimension is gone, this offense really struggles to score. And it's a long overdue for the Braves to change their offensive philosophy to become a more complete team for consistency and catch up really with today's game. Whether you like it or not, Major League Baseball has made a big effort to change the offensive environment in baseball today. And I think get away from more of the three true outcomes approach of home run, walk, strikeout, and make it a more complete game and get it back to the baseball that, at least myself, and I know a lot older than me, loved, where you're actually playing the game. And I made this point a lot on the postcast where I really got on my soapbox. If you listen to the last postcast, I was pretty angry and frustrated because the Braves just don't play the game. And I know that sounds weird to say, but you ask a Chipper Jones, you ask some of those veteran hitters, this Braves team does not play the game offensively. There is one thing that they're looking to do at the plate, and that's hit the ball as far as humanly possible. And they are great at doing that. But when that's not there, when you're facing some of the top pitchers in baseball, when you're hitting in an offensive environment that's not as conducive for the home runs, and again, early sample size early on, but it's looking like the baseballs are more deadened this year. At least they are in Braves games, maybe not when Ohtani's up at the plate. You've got to be able to score in different ways. And Major League Baseball has made changes to try to bring more action into the game. They've taken the shift away. They've made the bags bigger to try to elevate guys who make contact, that put the ball in play, to elevate teams that have speed. They are trying to change the game to be more geared towards that. And the Braves have not adjusted to that. And I think those changes are honestly better for baseball. Maybe you don't agree with that. I think that's better for baseball, to get back to a game where you're actually playing the game, where you can, perform a hit and run, where you can steal a base, where you can do the little things to score runs. And it's not just, okay, which team's going to get the 2 or 3 run home run tonight because that's the team that's going to win. Which team hits more home runs tonight because that's the team that's going to win. It's fun. It's exciting. I get it. Chicks dig the long ball, but I enjoy that game more, where it's more meaningful, the little things you do. And the Braves are bad. They're bad at doing the little things. They're bad at doing the little things. And it's not just offensively too, which is what I'm going to talk about, but I've mentioned, they're bad at holding on runners. They're bad at doing the little things right now. And they have to adjust, and they have to make these changes. And, that's what happened when you go out and you change hitting coaches. You're looking, not only for a new voice, but hopefully a new approach is what they were looking for. And I think you've seen that a little bit. And getting Tim Hires, what you were hoping for is you were hoping that approach in the offense would be more contact oriented, having a better game plan when you go up to the plate, and fixing some of their issues with runners in scoring position. And so far, at least, again, it's very early sample size, and some of the competition they've played is really good. At least 2 of those things have not been fixed. They do seem to at least have a little bit better game plan. They're seeing the 9th most pitches per plate appearance in baseball right now, seeing 4 pitches per at bat. That's led, I think, to a higher walk rate. They're 7th in walk rate this year at 10.5%. That's a good thing. Being able to see more pitches, being able to take those walks is a good thing. Last year, they ranked 6th in pitches per plate appearance, but that was at 3.94. So they're seeing more pitches per plate appearance already this year, but they were 10th or 16th rather in walk rate last year at 8%. However, that walk rate is a bit misleading because over half of those walks are coming from 2 guys in Ozuna and Olsen. Nobody else Drake Baldwin's walking over 10%. Brian De La Cruz is walking over 10% in a limited sample size. Outside of that, nobody else is really taking their walks. And meanwhile, they're all striking out a lot. And so that is still an issue. They're certainly being less aggressive, swinging at 45.5% of pitches compared to 49.7% last year. So again, seeing more pitches per plate appearance, being less aggressive at the plate. I think you're seeing an approach change, which again, I think is possibly the good thing. I think it's possible that you are seeing some changes, and maybe it's just taking some time for them to make these adjustments, because it's not easy. It's not going to be an easy change for them. These are good, talented players. I believe in them. I think they can do it. So when you dive into the numbers from this year, you are seeing some differences. You're seeing them be less aggressive, not swing as much. You're seeing them take more pitches. You're seeing them go deeper into at-bats. You're seeing, at least for some of the guys, you're seeing them take some more walks. Their zone contact percentage is improved from last year. It was 82.7% last year. It's 85% this year. And again, we're dealing with small sample sizes right now, but you're seeing them make more contact in the zone, which is great. Here's the problem, though, and here's what I really found out when digging into these numbers and where I think the big issue lies. Their zone swing percentage last year was 69.3%, the highest mark in baseball. And part of that is because of their aggressive nature. They were swinging at everything. So, by that, they're swinging at more pitches in the zone. So far this year, their zone swing percentage is down to 62.3%. That's 7% lower than last year. And that's the 7th lowest mark in Major League Baseball. So they went from having the highest mark in Major League Baseball at swinging at pitches in the zone to now they have the 7th lowest mark in Major League Baseball at swinging at pitches in the zone. And meanwhile, this year, they're swinging at 30% of pitches outside the zone. That's the 8th highest mark in Major League Baseball, and it's pretty much on par with where it was last year. So yes, stick with me here. Yes, they're being less aggressive at the plate. They're taking more pitches, but they're taking more pitches in the zone, and they're swinging at the same amount of pitches outside of the zone. They're not taking the right pitches. And so that is not a good thing. Yes, I want you to take more pitches. I want you to work deeper counts. I want you to take your walks. But as a result of that, it's led to them swinging at fewer pitches inside of the zone. And meanwhile, they're still swinging at the same number of pitches outside of the zone. So essentially, they're still chasing as many pitches, and they're swinging at fewer pitches inside the zone. And I had to wrap all that up. And that's where I see the big difference. And they've improved their in-zone contact rate. It's just the final piece of this for the Braves offense. You can see them trying to make some adjustments, trying to make some changes, but they're swinging at the wrong pitches. And that comes down to better game planning and knowing what pitches you're going to get in certain counts, better pitch recognition, and knowing what pitches you're getting and what to lay off and what to swing at. And if they can do that and keep this approach that they have, where they are seeing more pitches, they're battling at the plate, they're going deeper into counts. If they can continue to do that, but just swing at fewer pitches outside of the zone and swing at more pitches inside of the zone, then I'm really confident in what this offense can do. But they're not quite there yet. And meanwhile, the contact-oriented part is not there yet either. Only Matt Olson, by the way, Ozzie Albies, Drake Baldwin, and Jerickson Profar, who's not with the team for a while, have a strikeout rate under 26%. Everybody else that's had significant playing time has a strikeout rate over 26%. That you can't have that. You can't have that. You're taking more pitches inside of the zone. You're swinging at more pitches outside of the zone, and you're still striking out a ton. So again, you can see in there where it certainly feels like and looks like when you look at the data that there has been an offensive approach to be less aggressive at the plate. But that aggressiveness outside of the zone is still there. They're still swinging at the same number of pitches outside of the zone and just taking fewer pitches inside of the zone. And that is where the final step is, I think, for this offense to really get on track and take off, is to being able to have that pitch recognition and swing at those pitches inside of the zone and don't miss them. I feel like they're missing a lot of those pitches inside of the zone. So I know that's kind of nerdy, going deep into the stats right there. Hopefully you were able to follow along with that. But I do see in the data some approach changes. It's just there's a next step to that that if they can apply the pitch recognition to that and swing at better pitches, then I really think they can take off. There's another thing that this offense needs to do. The real issue that I have with this Braves offense, and an issue that I've been pushing for a long time now, and if this doesn't change, this Braves offense isn't going to go anywhere. I'll talk about that here next. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live, the crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all-in prices, and a lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the MLB season is underway, I can count on them to help grab tickets that meet my needs. They have the Game Time Picks feature. This makes finding the best deals effortless. It filters out the fluff and highlights the top discounts in the stadium. And I love that I can preview my exact seat before purchasing. No bad surprises when I get to the stadium. I've been to Wrigley before. I've been to Fenway. I've gotten those tickets in the past where you're stuck behind a pole and you can't see the field. Don't be that guy. Make sure you view the seat before you purchase it, and you can do that right in the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. There's one more thing I want to get to on this offense that really has bugged me for a long time, even when the Braves offense has been good in the 21, 22, 23 years. This lineup is just not dynamic enough, especially without Ronald Acuna Jr. It's just not a lineup that is built to score in different ways. There isn't anybody in this lineup that is a dynamic base stealer. Again, without Ronald. And we don't know what Ronald's going to look like coming back. Michael Harris tried on Saturday. It was honestly embarrassing. And I love you, Money Mike. But when the center field camera pans out to show the play at second base, and the base runner still isn't in the picture, it's not good. It was a terrible jump. It was honestly a little bit closer than I thought it would be, that he almost got in there, but he has to be a better base stealer than he has been. You want to talk about being able to outrun Lawrence Butler and how fast you are? You've got to be a better, and I think he is fast. I just don't think he's great at stealing bases. And that's something he has to be better at. Ozzie has to be able to steal some bases. Nick Allen, I think, is in the lineup just because of the threat he gives you to steal a base. And you just don't have that. I talked about that at the beginning of the last segment. The game is changing, and it is really crediting teams that have the athleticism to run and steal bases. And the Braves don't do that. And they don't have that up and down their lineup. There isn't anybody in this lineup that I'd feel comfortable executing a hit and run. And I know that's almost a foregone conclusion in today's game that never happens. But when you're struggling offensively and you need to do something to try to get something going, sometimes you need to be able to do that. And there's not anybody in this lineup that I trust. Even guys like a Michael Harris and Ozzie Albies that typically don't strike out a lot and will put the ball in play, sometimes they'll just take some wild swings and swing and miss a lot. And I don't trust them in a hit and run situation. Not to mention they'd probably be the only guys that would be on base that I would call that. But there isn't anybody in this lineup that I feel comfortable executing that with. And there's maybe only 2 or 3 guys that I think can score on a double in the gap. Just a normal double. Obviously, a ball gets down in the corner. Even Ozuna can score from first base. But there's just not anybody in this lineup that can do those types of things. It's been a station-to-station offense for years now, and an offense that is designed to live on the 2 or 3 run homer. And look, understand this offense is going to be great this year. And yes, I'm saying that now. This offense will be great this year because they're going to face a lot of bad starting pitching as the years go on. The baseball is going to travel better once it gets into the warmer months. And you're going to see this team consistently, if they stay healthy, you're going to see this team consistently get those 2 or 3 run homers. What my concern is when you're facing those top pitchers, when the baseball isn't traveling as well, when you're in the postseason and all you're getting is dominant pitching and you're not able to rely on those home runs, then how do you score? And the answer to that, the last 3 postseasons now and the last 3 starts to the year, are they're not going to be able to score. And until they make this change, and until they're able to score in different ways. And until they're able to have a lineup that can put the ball in play more consistently, that can run more consistently, that can move a runner over, the guys at the bottom of the lineup being able to bunt a guy over every now and then, until they're able to do those things, they are going to struggle to score in cold weather climates like they are now. They're going to struggle to score against the best pitching in baseball. They're going to struggle to score in the postseason. And that's just the reality of it. Again, this offense will mash in the summertime. Again, assuming all these guys stay healthy, they will mash and they're going to score a lot of runs and they're going to be a top offense. And we're all going to sit back and say, okay, the offense is back. It's here now. The guys are performing, and then the postseason is going to come, assuming they get there. Or, the colder weather is going to come later in the year. And I'm perfectly fine with this offense and how they can score runs against some of the bad pitching when they have a night like Friday night. They're going to be, when they're getting those home runs, they're going to be able to score, and that's perfectly fine. My issue with this offense for a while has been, what do you do when you're facing that pitcher that's going to keep the ball in the ballpark? What do you do when you're facing the Zach Wheelers of the world? How else can you try to score runs? And this team just doesn't have that. They don't have another way to score runs, and they haven't for a long, long time. And I think that's the biggest reason that they've struggled in the postseason. We can talk about all the pitching injuries in the postseason the Braves have had over the last 3 years, and that's certainly part of it. But the bigger issue has been their inability to manufacture and score runs in different ways and have a dynamic type of offense to do that. Look, 2021 was great, and they won that postseason because they got a lot of big home runs, and that might happen for you every now and then. But to be able to have a more consistent team that can make a deep run, you've got to be able to score in different ways. And this offense just isn't built to do that. But the bottom line is something has to change. And again, it looks like if you dive into the numbers right now, they are making some approach changes, but there's still another layer to that they have to get to in the pitch recognition and swinging at the right pitches and taking the right pitches. And right now it looks like they're just taking pitches to take pitches. And that's not what you want. You want to see them chase less. Get that outside of the zone swing contact rate down a little bit. Get that zone swing rate back up a little bit. Keep that zone contact percentage where it's been, because that seems okay. And then you'll start to see this offense really start to succeed. So no, I went pretty deep on today's podcast in that, but it's really been on my mind and frustrated, as I know many of you are. So again, hopefully that kind of helps, view this offense and some of the things to look for going forward. I wanted to get into a little bit, of some of the news from the weekend. Sean Murphy being activated, Chadwick Tromp DFA'd. We'll talk about more of that on Monday, Miners Monday podcast that we'll do. I want to get more into Jared Kelenic. I think his time's running out. And I think Allen's run may have ended as well at shortstop, over 3 with 3 strikeouts on Saturday. RC was supposed to be in the lineup on Sunday had they played. But we'll talk more about that on tomorrow's episode. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Thanks so much for all your support here at Locked On Braves, and we will talk to you next time.